Years ago, when I lived in Hawaii, I was getting ready to head out on a sea kayak trip to a nearby small island. We'd planned a simple picnic, nothing heroic. And as we were loading the boats, a storm started to roll in. It didn't look dramatic, no towering walls of water, no obvious danger. And the people I was with knew how to read the ocean far better than I did. We stood there for a while, debating, watching, talking it through. Because here's the thing, it wasn't safe. But based on their recommendations, we determined that the conditions matched our skill. We had the capacity to navigate what was coming. We understood the water well enough. We weren't reckless, but we weren't pretending the ocean owed us calm conditions either. And so we went. The surreal part of this whole story was that feeling of paddling out while everyone else was paddling in. Beachgoers were packing up, boats were returning to shore, and the mood was clearly come to shore, hunker down. And there we were, moving in the opposite direction. All right, before I go further, one quick orientation. Not every nervous system meets pressure the same way, and if you haven't already, pause this video, go down below to the description and take our Somatic Skins quiz. It will help you reorganize around your default pattern under stress, and it will change how you hear what I'm about to say. And then you can come right back. So back to the story. I think about that phrase often, especially lately. What it is to go out when others are going in. I've been getting a steady stream of messages from people in my world who are deeply unsettled. Not just stressed in a personal way, but there's that, but sensing something larger happening, a kind of ambient chaos that keeps intensifying. One person recently said to me, it feels like I'm trying to surf the waves, but really I'm just being thrown around in this huge nighttime storm and the waves don't stop coming. It's pretty accurate for many. We're living in what feels like perfect storm conditions. And every day brings more disruption, more instability, more threat, delivered as if we're supposed to calmly absorb it and then return to our lives as though nothing fundamental is changing. You see, most of us were never trained to live inside sustained uncertainty like this. Our culture in modern times does not prepare us for this. It prepares us to stabilize quickly, explain things away, or wait for clarity to return. But clarity isn't returning. As extreme as this moment feels, I don't experience it as new. To me, it's an amplification of a pattern as old as time and one that I've been watching for decades. And that doesn't make it less frightening or the conditions safe. It just means that the terrain of modern life is no longer stable and predictable enough to rely on old maps, ways of doing things. And when there is no map, you need to orient differently. You need a compass. And this is where applied somatics, at least the way we do it, enters. Not as healing or self-improvement, but as orientation trainings, befitting modern life. Because mastery is not control and it's not calm. Mastery is choice and full range of self-command. When your nervous system becomes coherent under fire, when structure, attention, and breath move as one rhythm, the system gains something rare, the ability to choose who to be inside the moment, the you that reality is asking for. At that level, the skins stop behaving like fixed personality traits and they become living architectures of response. Each skin holds a distinct form of intelligence. The warrior carries decisive force. The shapeshifter carries adaptability and yield. The sage carries clarity and recognition. and the asset carries empathy and relational or environmental awareness. Most people move between these unconsciously, pulled by emotion, fear, context, or threat. And under pressure, one skin will tend to dominate, and the others disappear. But training command changes that. Self-command is not control over your emotion or control over your circumstance. It is the embodied capacity to reconfigure selfhood as the moment demands, without fragmentation or loss of presence. And command is achieved not in the mind, but through the body, what we call the psychosoma. Through structure, you anchor the physical. Through attention, you orient the mental. Through breath, you regulate the emotional and chemical. These three, structure, attention, and breath, are the regulators. They form the control interface between physiology and psychology. When coherence is established across all three, the body no longer becomes its reflex. It deploys it intelligently, deliberately, as language. Each regulator acts like a switch. Structure can call forth the warrior, stacked bones, fixed gaze, compressed breath, tension and power organized into precision of force. Relaxed structure awakens the shapeshifter, soft joints, fluid orientation, lengthened exhale, adaptability through yield. Steady attention activates the sage. One single anchor point, minimal motion, even breath, is perception becoming pattern. A receptive or open breath invites the asset. Open posture, soft eyes, wide periphery, deep belly respiration. This is connection without merging. These aren't abstract qualities. They are distinct neural and muscular configurations that determine which kind of intelligence runs your system. When untrained, the skins will appear as superficial personality traits. When trained, they function as instruments. And this matters most when pressure is applied, because true command is not proven in calm. It's tested in motion when it matters. Under pressure, every skin has a predictable form of deterioration. The warrior might stiffen her armor, the shapeshifter disperses, the sage withdraws, the asset merges. These distortions are not moral failures or character traits. They're physiological defaults, and because they're predictable, they're trainable. Once you can feel them arise, you can pivot before a collapse occurs. When rigidity builds, you can intelligently soften the joints, drop tension, and lengthen your breath, pivoting towards the shapeshifter. When action diffuses, you might stack the spine, fix the gaze, compress the breath, summoning the warrior into action. When detachment creeps in, you deepen the breath, widen awareness, move towards the asset. When empathy overwhelms you, you narrow the gaze and simplify the field, invoking the sage. We go into detail with all of this in our training and our books. Each pivot is physical, chemical, perceptual. This is the difference between being lived by your nervous system and living through it. When the skins can be accessed at will and when the regulators maintain coherence under load, the system reaches a new condition. It stops fragmenting under stress. Structure channels force, attention directs it, breath harmonizes it. The nervous system becomes one continuous field of organization, stable and fluid, calm and alive. This is what we call the Grand Formidable, not an archetype, a condition, a state, a nervous system that expands under pressure instead of contracting or controlling, where power and perception rise together, where breath is strengthened, where clarity feels, where compassion can act. The qualities that once alternated as opposites can now coexist in one system as a unified state of being. This is what happens when you stop managing chaos in reaction or response and you begin to train it, front load your training, and metabolize it ahead of time. That was a lot. And this brings me back to that kayak. Paddling out wasn't bravery. It wasn't defiance. It was intelligent orientation. We didn't go because the storm was gone or because we were foolishly disconnected from the elements. We went because we were prepared to meet it, risk involved, and we were awake. And that's what's possible for all of us when we train deliberately as the one constant we have, ourselves. Our nervous system and operating software, what we call the psychosoma. Because this isn't about fixing the world and it's not about bypassing reality. It's about participating in meaningful ways, about learning how to stay and interact as human, present, and internally guided even when the external situation makes very little sense. Because storms don't ask if you're ready. They just arrive. And the question is no longer whether the water will be rough, but whether you will know how to navigate without a map. If you enjoyed this video, please do like and subscribe. It genuinely helps the channel reach as many of us as possible who are looking for this kind of work. Thank you for staying with me all the way to the end. If you want to go deeper, there are 2 ways to do that. First, you can pick up a copy of one of our 2 books, The Somatic Skins and Becoming the Grand Formidable. They're both field manuals for training a body that can stay coherent under pressure. And second, if you're someone who learns best through live application, through practice, feedback, and being in the room with others who are training this capacity too, we do this work inside the Prestige in, I think, really creative and fun ways. It's an applied somatics training ground for people who are no longer interested in concepts alone, but in lived range and command. I'll put all of the links for those things below. Until next time.